colleagues, to the people of this territory. Good afternoon to the testifiers. First of all, I do appreciate the nonprofit organizations that do their very best to serve this community, so I definitely applaud them. The first question I want to know, outside of the Casey Foundation grant of $75,000, if I recall from what I was reading,
it reduced to $60,000 this year. Sorry.
You have to let. You have to let the senator finish. Okay. Okay. Please proceed. It's our first. Senator is our first time here with us.
Sorry.
So she's going through some growing pains.
It's okay. It was a first time for me too. Outside of that, I want to ask, do you guys solicit additional funds? And if so, what kind of funds do you guys receive as an organization outside of the grants that you already get?
Deanna James, St. Croix Foundation. We do a lot of solicitation. The foundation, Kids Count is just one of many programs that the St. Croix Foundation leads. And so we try to secure funding from EDC beneficiaries. That's been a little challenging. We have a pledge that our founding board members made that sort of guides how we secure funding, and that is a pledge to minimize competition with our nonprofits. And so we work really hard. Most of my time is spent trying to advocate for greater investment from national foundation partners. So that is where most of our money, we've been really fortunate to have some support over the last 2 years from the Office of the Governor through some of the federal funding that has come through the territory. But for the most part, this was an unfunded liability. And I'm sorry for interrupting you, Senator Heiliger, but I got a little excited when you said $75,000 because actually this year, NECAC reduced their grant to $60,000. And so that is, those are the kinds of challenges that we face on a regular basis to support this work.
And when you spoke about having it being challenging to get support from EDC beneficiaries, what are some of the concerns with that? Because I know part of the process that many of them have to assist with in helping the community, reaching out as part of the trade-off for us giving them huge tax breaks. So why do you find that particular area challenging?
I'm going to try and not go off on a tangent, but to be really frank, we believe that the EDC policies have cultivated a culture of charity and not real philanthropy in the Virgin Islands. And so those contributions that are made, some EDC companies make well above and beyond what their allocated commitment is, and others do not. And there is no standardization, there's no tie to actual income that is made to the level of giving that happens in the territory. And so that's one of the conversations we continue to have with EDA around how the EDC policies have been established for the territory in support of our local nonprofits.
Well, sometimes when policies fail, laws prevail. So we might have to make adjustments in that area. In regards to Kids Count specifically, we spend a lot of time utilizing the data you guys provide to us. Could I just wrap up quickly, Mr. Chair?
Of course, Senator. Please proceed.
Thank you. We spend a lot of time utilizing the very data that the St. Croix Foundation provides us in regards to Kids Count. And one of the major things for me has to do with the poverty aspect of it when it comes to our children in this territory. Based on the data and research that you guys have collected, what exactly have you pinpointed is the greatest impact as it relates to the poverty of our children in this territory? And what possible solutions have you seen that could assist with having our children rise out of this poverty level? Because when you're telling me that 1/3 of our children in this population is basically living in poverty, that is a major concern for someone like me that is very, very serious about making sure our people are okay. So I want to know, pinpoint, what do you think is the direct correlation to that, and what possible solutions that we can do as lawmakers or as a government to help raise our children out of poverty?
Deanna James, Dr. Gabriella, is she on the phone? I don't know if Anna Gabriella is on, but I was going to ask her to take a stab at that. I mean, honestly, if you look at other places, when you really think about poverty, the great equalizer is education. And that's, I think that's at the core. Of course, health infrastructure is, obviously connected to that also, but educational systems are foundational for communities dealing with issues of poverty. And so I think that's where we think it, like a place where we can direct some focus and investment. And it's part of the reason we included Montessori school as one of the recommendations for thinking about how to provide additional academic resources beyond our conventional public school system.
You're talking about the way that they educate versus the standard form of education.
Yes. So the way that they educate it is much more progressive. We do a lot of work around a decolonized approach to philanthropy. And I think while our educational system is our educational system and it's funded by the U.S. Department of Education, we think that it's time for the Virgin Islands to explore much more progressive and maybe out-of-the-box approaches to educating our children.
I happen to agree with you 100%. And just to quickly wrap up, as we know, looking at even some of the numbers that come out of our education department as to how low our children are being educated in this territory, I could fully understand where your correlation to education and poverty exists. And until we could really focus on getting our children from those dismal numbers, because we had a hearing and I spoke to the Commission on Education in regards to the data they have showing that our children were below basic at 75% in reading and other areas. I think those numbers are very unacceptable. And unless we are serious about fixing our education problem, your data is going to continue being the same because we need to rise our children out of poverty. So thank you for your responses, and we will continue to support your organization because I think you guys bring valuable information that do help this territory. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the additional time.
And thank you, Senator Alma Francis.
Quickly in two parts. Is there any government agency or agencies that your organization would like to get more data from to assist with you producing a much more informative product as it relates to Kids Count? And part two, for example, I do agree when you shared about us looking at alternative ways of education. Our children are advancing, our society is shifting, and sometimes the standard classroom setting might not be the most conducive for learning. What are your thoughts? For example, one of my pieces of legislation I submitted was to say, take a percentage, not necessarily remove it, but to identify a percentage of our education. Let's say we spend $100 million a year on education, and we say we want to take 5% of that and create a pilot program so children could be sent to other alternative types of schooling, and we track that progress to really have some serious data to compare it to the standard way that our children are learning versus different types of alternatives. Is that something that you see that we could be doing as a community in really trying to identify what is the best way to educate our children?
So yes, Deanna James, St. Croix Foundation President. So the reference that I made in the testimony to the Puerto Rico Public Montessori is very similar to what you proposed. and it's been just a raging success over there. And our hope is that we can put our contacts in over there in contact with local stakeholders here to begin talking. They have built resources around training teachers so that those resources are available to us if we decided to explore something like that. We wouldn't have to travel to the States to train teachers. We have resources in Puerto Rico. But the lesson, the journey that they've been on is an instructive journey for us, I think, for creating, and it is by choice, so public schools can choose to participate or not. Parent PTA associations have actually made the decision for a school to actually explore a new way of teaching and reaching children. And so we think it's it's not, they're not charter schools, they are conventional public schools where administrators and parents have made a decision to explore something different for their students. And they've been, I think they have like almost 100% graduation rate for the schools that have participated in the public Montessori program. And so it is one model. There are many, many other models, but it's one model that we have explored a little bit and think that should be considered here for the Virgin Islands.
Okay. And in regards to the government agencies, do you guys get full support, or are there any agencies specifically you would like to indulge with or connect with a little bit more so you could have more better data as it relates to Kids Count? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, and Deanna James, St. Croix Foundation President. Obviously, anything to do with Opportunity Youth. So our Department of Justice, our Juvenile Justice, and VIPD are the agencies that we are most interested in collecting data around. We really want to build a profile of our young people who make contact with the juvenile justice or criminal justice system, to sort of backtrack to see where they started and how we can start directing resources and investments early to serve as interventions before they make contact with the criminal justice system. So all of those agencies are the agencies we are struggling the most to get really rich data from, and any support we can get would be helpful.
Thank you, Senator Alma Francis Heilaga, for your question. And that wraps up everyone who's here now. So we're about to close out. But before we do, I wanted to commend you and all of the members